Hello Scorpio, thanks for joining me. 5-card tarot in this reading for the sign of Scorpio. And this is the first Scorpio video I've done of 2020. We're in January 2020. So we're really looking at the way ahead, the way forward, and a little bit of where we are now using Tarot in Wonderland, my favourite deck at the moment. And it has been for quite a while actually. Lots of insight and intuition and intuitive possibilities with this deck. So let's get started and have a shuffle and say what's the first card in this reading for the sign of Scorpio in January 2020. And here we go. Oh, it's the Star. There we are. Now, lovely energy in the Star. This card is an absolutely beautiful lapis colour, and it's telling us to really focus on what comes into us from the divine, from the outer realms. And the main thing about that is that we actually have it within us to be able to relate to that, because this character here is nourishing herself, nurturing herself, and getting back in touch with what really matters. So are you feeling a bit ragged, Scorpio? I bet you are, actually, because just about everybody must be. We've just been through the festive season, and I hope you had a good one, by the way. But it tends to turn lots of things on their head, doesn't it, the festive season? And you see in the stars above this card, the brightest one there is the North Star. And that is reminding us that we have that within us. We have our own, in astrology, our own North Node, which is about where we're going and all the positive possibilities of the future. But it's also telling us that we have that within ourselves. So focus, Scorpio, focus on that spark of light deep in the heart of your soul and feel it growing as you focus on it. And think about the highest good. Think about the best possibilities, even things that seem impossible, because nothing is impossible. The tarot always reminds us of that, but it is actually a fact of life. I was going to say it's a fact of the spiritual life, but it's a fact of life, full stop, really. That's the truth of it. But look at all this beautiful lapis, and it's a kind of a purpley sort of lapis lazuli colour we've got here. So healing is possible, and there is a lot of gold in this character as well. Gold around her arms, which are reaching out to actually do whatever she wants to do in the world, and gold around her crown chakra in her hat there, showing that all things are possible, and her gold feathers, so we can think of bringing the angels in, and we can think of all the positive possibilities that there are. And you see, there's lots of nature in this card, is there not, Scorpio? And that reminds us that no matter how far this world and all the influences of modern life might bring us away from nature, nature is right there. Underneath the concrete, beneath our feet, there is actually soil, and that is actually Mother Earth, who is always ready to nurture us. So tune in that way if you can, Scorpio, okay? And as we go through this reading, hopefully we'll get all those ragged edges knocked off and make everything nice and smooth again, because that's the way it really needs to be. And the reason I say that, Scorpio, is that that is really the way it is. Everything else is an illusion. The actual truth is that we're given beautiful lives in a beautiful world, and we owe it to ourselves to focus in on that, especially when it doesn't seem that way to us, because that's really, you know, it's our right, it's our human right to feel that way, because human life is actually a spiritual thing, and we do all relate to the higher realms one way or another. So remember God inside you, Scorpio, and if you're not a believer in God, just think about those higher chakras, the higher self, all the good things that there are in being a human being, and yes, I'll say it, all the good things that there are in being a Scorpio. So that's where we are now, and that's the thing to do, guys. Focus on that spark of light within yourself. It's sure to grow and grow. Let's have a shuffle then and see what we've got for a second card in this 5-card tarot spread for the sign of Scorpio in January 2020. And here we are. It's number 4, the Emperor. So it's major arcana again. Now then, the Star there, that was Aquarius energy. No two ways about it. The Emperor is more of an Aries sort of character. So this is great for a second card in a reading, actually, because that Ram energy is going to force through and really make things happen in the most positive way possible, we hope. That's not always an Aries characteristic, but since we had the Star to begin with, and we were looking at Aquarius there's sure to be balance coming in just before this card comes up and begins to make sense to us. Now then, the Emperor is all about resources, really, and if we use our resources wisely and correctly, we can fly. See, there's a golden bird flying there. The other birds in the scene are all actually on the ground, and everybody says, well, you know, some birds are flightless, and maybe you feel like a flightless bird, Scorpio. But, you know, I keep chickens and poultry. I've had all kinds of birds because they link me to the higher chakras. So I do like to look after birds and have them around me as pets and friends, and chickens as well to lay eggs. And everyone says chickens in particularly are a flightless bird that can't fly. And believe me, the most flightless chickens that there are can fly about 3 feet off the ground. It's a necessary thing for them to avoid predators and the dangers of this life. So even if you feel like a flightless bird, Scorpio, spread those wings and try to fly, because you really can. Some chickens can fly 5 or 6 feet. The smallest chickens can really fly quite well, and it serves them in a good way. Looking all around us, we can see that nature has been sculpted, hasn't it? Because we've got beautiful trees and bushes in the background, but they've been sculpted down to sort of man-made proportions and man-made shapes. And we do need to have some control over nature, you know, but that's what the Emperor is about. Nature is a wonderful resource. We just have to not use it all up at once, and keep some of it in our hearts and minds all the time, even as we are actually using that energy up. There's a fine blue sky there, lots of angelic suggestion about that colour of the sky, and I'm sure the angels are going to be close at hand, but we must always remember to ask the angels, and do it every day. Some people think, well, I'll ask the angels in bulk now and then I can forget about them, but we need to ask them every day for what we want and for what we hope they'll bring into our lives. Now look at the coloured parrot there. As well as the idea of the golden bird that's flying, we should be mindful of all our wonderful colours as well. And we can see that the Emperor's not actually gripping the parrot. The parrot is quite happy to sit on the Emperor's hand, because the time will come when it's time to fly, when it's time to get going, and when it's time to start making things happen. So there's a definite invitation to calm down there, Scorpio, no doubt about that. We've begun with the star and the Aquarian energy, saying that we need to focus on that inner spark of light and make it big, you know, which we do just by our good intentions and just by focusing on it. And as that inner spark expands, it comes into contact with the true North Star, with all the love and the light out there in the universe that's there for us. And it really sounds pie in the sky, doesn't it? But I'm not talking about pies in the sky. I'm talking about stars in the sky, Scorpio, and we can all see them. But the Emperor says, take your time, but, you know, always be mindful that you can spread your wings, and when you do, it's going to be golden. I'm sure about that. Okay, lots of hope so far in this reading. I'm enjoying this one. This looks very positive. So what have we for card number 3? This is going to be the heart of the matter, really, and really and truly the heart of the matter, because it's the third card of a 5-card reading. It's right in the middle, and this is what everything so far is leading up to, and this is where we start turning things around and going forward. So what have we got? And it is the Ace of Swords. Right, this is really good. Okay, now there is another reason why it would have been good to take our time and wait and hang on to those resources until the moment comes. Because boy, oh boy, the moment is really going to come. And it's appeared here in the Ace of Swords. It's a sword card, so it's air sign energy. Gemini, Libra and Aquarius, so we're harking back to Aquarius here. Have you got an Aquarius relationship going on somewhere, Scorpio? Could be a person you're in love with, could be a person you work with, could just be the way you feel about life. And think about, where is Aquarius in your chart? Because that's twice that Aquarius has come to mind now. So there's a decision to be made, and you guys are good at this, Scorpio. Decisions are really a thing that you've got a good handle on, but it's too easy to make things go definitely one way or definitely the other way most of the time. But here is the turning point. Here is where we've got to be aware of it. Now, there's a sword in this card and there's also a wand. So again, we're looking at uniting the heavens and the earth in terms of the influences around us. So when you come to make this decision, take some time over it, Scorpio, whatever you do. But don't put it off. That's the advice, because there will be help there and there will be substantial guidance around you. The border of this card is lapis. I can see all kinds of blues in this card. So there's the spiritual connection, lapis colour, and there's the turquoise of truth, and again the celestial light of the angels showing through here. And this scene is taking place high up in the mountains, high above the mist, you see. So you will be lifted above the mist and the fog that is coming around you and making it hard to make this decision at the moment, Scorpio. So thinking of the other two cards, take your time and, wait until you feel in touch, but don't keep putting it off, because this is the heart of the matter. This is the decision that needs to be made. It's just, there are good times and not so good times for making decisions. In this time of January, when in the Northern Hemisphere everything is dark and has been dark for ages and will be dark for a bit longer in terms of the weather. It's a filthy day out there, all rain and blustery showers. And people feel down within themselves, and if we act on that feeling of downness, then we really are going to hamper our progress going forward, because it's just not the time to, maybe it's a good time for making decisions, but it's not a good time to feel that you know exactly what's going on at the moment. I'll say that to Scorpio and anybody else actually who's watching. I would say that to anyone. It's the time of year, and as the Emperor, number 4 there, reminds us, there's a season. Well, no, actually, it's the Empress, isn't it, number 3, who reminds us that there's a season for everything. But the Emperor is saying, hang on until you know the shot. Hang on until you can make a real sensible decision, because it's not just a case of black and white, is it? It's a case of taking everything into account and finding the right moment to take the shot. So what's the next card then as we move forward from the Ace of Swords? Where are we actually going? What's the card number 4 in this spread? And it is the Magician. Here he is. Now then, Mr. Caterpillar in this deck. He also appears in the Make-A-Wish card, so I guess you could say there's something of making a wish here. I think, though, Scorpio, you'll be making a wish more around the Ace of Swords time as that comes to you. And the Magician just tells us that we can all be the master or mistress of our own destiny. There really isn't a problem with that. That is natural. We often feel there's a problem with being in charge of our own lives, but that has a lot to do with what other people put on us and what the conditions of life bring around us. So hopefully we've taken our time before we've made that Ace of Swords decision there. We've involved the angels, we've involved the divine, and so we can see all the symbols of the tarot are actually in this card. There's a sword and a wand up top, and then there's the pentacle, and there's a cup down below as well. And where the pentacles get involved, it's really good news, because it's a symbol of magic, and that's why it's here with the Magician. And what's really magical about the suit of pentacles is that those 5 points represent earth, wind, fire and water. Earth, air, fire and water, I should say. I'm a 1980s kid and I remember Earth, Wind and Fire, one of the best bands I've ever heard, actually. But yeah, earth, air, fire and water, under the guidance of the divine, under the guidance of divine spirit, the angels, the universe, whichever way you want to see it. Could even be your own higher self. In fact, whatever it is, your own higher self is sure to be involved with this, Scorpio. So think about it. We've made this decision, and we've got to remember that whatever we've decided, we will have the strength to go forward with it, as long as we've consulted the great oracle that is the universe, or the higher chakras, or God, or however you want to see it. We do have that power, we do have that ability, and Scorpio, you will be the master of your own fate, your own destiny. Okay, that's what the Magician has to say to us. So that's really positive, moving on from that decision and going forward. And is this actually a question of stepping out from real life, or is it a question of what comes next? That's really what we've got to ask ourselves, because life has a story. I teach this to psychology students, actually. Life has a story, and one of the reasons that people become most depressed in this life is when the story of life is interrupted and they don't feel as if they're really going anywhere that relates to where they've been in the past. And it can be very depressing thinking that the past is wasted. Anyway, what is card number 5? What is the outcome card in this reading for the sign of Scorpio, January 2020? Let's see what we've got here. It's the Three of Pentacles. Okay, so steady work, steady progress. And actually, that I must have been a bit psychic there, because that story of life is what it's all about. Alice has been working hard. The tree is bearing flowers and fruit, and we see the 3 pentacles up in the tree there. Again, earth, fire, I nearly said earth, wind and fire again. Earth, air, fire and water under the guidance of the divine. And there is the king attempting to direct the work from down below. But what does he know? There's also the hare who's looking at the plan, and there is a plan somewhere, so don't fear stopping and looking at the plan. But this shows steady progress, and this shows things paying off. It's another card, well, it's a Pentacles card, and the Pentacles is a very strong suit in the Magician that we just had there. Pentacle energy is basically Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, the earth signs, so it's an invitation to be grounded. And we do have to ground what we do in reality. The tree is sort of grounded, but it's grounded in a pot. Its roots don't seem to be going right the way down into the earth. So to make that progress really shine and to make your life really sing, Scorpio, I would actually repot the tree of whatever it is you're growing at the moment. Ground it, ground yourself, and just be aware. This goes right back to the star card, I'm sorry, at the beginning. This character is actually earthing herself in so many ways, because she's really going back to the source. And as we come out at the other end of the reading, that's what this tree really needs. It's going very well. There's nothing negative about this card as well. But in terms of needing to stop and think, which we all do when we're trying to make good things happen, the thing to do is actually take that tree out of the pot, plant it in the ground, and stop trying to hang on to controlling the idea of the outcome too much. Okay, very positive there, so we'll recap. Okay, number 17, the star. It's Aquarius energy, and it's just saying, let that spark of light grow within yourself. And here we come to the Emperor, and now we're saying, let's have that, all that, well, it's not just the spark of life, but all the spiritual and worldly resources. Let's allow them to build up a bit, and let's wait for the right moment to actually start using them. The actual right moment comes in the form of the Ace of Swords, and this is the heart of the reading, the heart of the matter. So this says it's coming soon. So, you know, don't fear making that decision, basically. Just be very careful as you make it. The Magician says, be in charge of your own destiny. You can be, Scorpio. You've got everything you need in order to do that. And this just says, ground yourself as you're going forward, because forward is most certainly where you're going. Well, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks very much for watching, Scorpio. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it, please. It all helps the channel. Do leave me a comment. I'd love to know what you guys think of these readings. I'd love to know where it's taking you. It really helps me as a reader to make things better and better as I go along. Share me around social media if you can as well, please. That makes a huge difference. So yeah, thanks again for watching. Have a fantastic 2020. Have a particularly fantastic January. And I'll be back again with more readings very soon. Peace.